Initial public offering. It's when a private company opens themselves up to the public market. Anthropic, I think, is more of the hotter name. I'm more interested in the companies that benefit from the build out that supports those companies. That's exactly it. So if I am a long-term investor and I decided to go into the IPO, you just have to know you're going to have insane volatility.
Hey Alex, how you doing?
Hey James, doing great. How you doing?
Doing well. You ready to talk stocks and more?
Yes, and I'm really excited to kind of talk about what's probably the biggest story right now within the investing world.
Really? What is that?
IPOs.
IPOs.
That's it.
Specifically, SpaceX, right?
That's the big one.
So maybe we start at the beginning, and if you wouldn't mind, explain and give us a quick overview of what an IPO is.
Yeah, so even if you don't plan on participating in these, it's really important that you understand what an IPO is. So this is the right spot to start off. And IPO stands for Initial Public Offering.
Okay.
And basically at a high level, it's when a private company opens themselves up to the public market. So they file a bunch of paperwork with the government and banks get involved and the banks offer the shares to the public, but it allows them to basically sell share of their company,
right?
And then it allows them then to generate money from selling those shares. So that's high level of what's going on with an IPO.
Okay, and if we pulled back for a second, we have this step and phase of companies fundraising, if you will. But before that, often, a company can start just from an idea, somebody having a vision or passion, and then maybe even they invest their own money to build that idea. And then from there, maybe they're recruiting some investment or some people with help to fund the business. What is that kind of investment building or getting people involved pre-IPO referred to or called? Or is that an important part of pre-IPO?
Yeah, that's a critical part of pre-IPO. And as I'm building my company, what I do is I get different series of fundings. I'll have my Series A, my Series B, and Series C. And whenever you hear these thrown around, basically it's the numbering system or lettering system of the first fundraising, the second fundraising, the third fundraising. And the way these IPOs work before they go public is I'm a private company, and as I want to scale my business, I need to generate money. And the only way for me to generate money is if I allow others to be involved with my business and I give them a share of my company and they give me money. And this allows me to then reinvest and scale. But what happens is early on investors will be investing at a certain valuation for the company. And if the company starts doing really well and I start getting the opportunity to keep scaling, my valuation of my company goes up. But what's interesting is private investors will basically tell me what my company is worth. And as an early investor, they're the ones that are set up the best for when a company goes public because they've been in it the longest. They're going to have the cheapest price versus what the public's going to get access to for that share price.
Okay, so that's kind of the pre-IPO stage. And then when you want to raise more funds, open yourself up to the retail public market to invest in your company, that starts the IPO process, right?
And one key thing to note is before the public gets access to it, major investors get access to it. Like the banks are the ones that get investing in it first, and then it goes to retail. And there are things like Robinhood out there that are trying to get people earlier access. So if I'm a Robinhood user, I can go in there and ask to be allocated IPO shares when it goes public. But at the same time, it's not the actual true IPO price. It's whatever the market opens up at. So that's kind of one of the key things to know. The further down the supply chain you get, the worse deal I'm getting as a retail investor.
All right, so that makes sense. Basically, whoever you had come in and invest in the company prior to going public or IPOing, they get their cut first.
Yes.
Of the shares at whatever share is established, share price. And then the company officially files, and then that there's an official date, right? That happens. And then they're on the market, stock market, for investors to buy shares.
That's right. Yeah. And the way to think of it is that original investor is going to be having whatever their share price would be is going to be dramatically lower than whatever the IPO price is. And all of that money in between is how much they're going to be profiting when that company goes public. So one thing to reframe this is an IPO is a company opening itself to the public, but it's also a chance for the inside sellers to finally take profits in the company.
That's interesting. And how are they taking profits in the company?
So they're allowed to, after a lockup period, sell a portion of their shares. And it's generally 6 months of a lockup period. And the reason there's a lockup period is that they don't want the stock price to crash if all of the inside investors that have been in it decide to sell on the opening day. Because that's exactly what would happen is the stock price would just crash. So
if there's too many sellers and not enough buyers.
Exactly. So it's more of a phased approach, and it's like a stability thing that we want to make sure that's why the 6 months is kind of like the traditional rule for when people can start cashing in their original shares.
All right. So they go public, they're on the market, they set a price. Depending on the demand, the stock will either go up or go down, right?
That's correct.
Fair?
Yes, exactly. And when it's a hyped up one like SpaceX, one could assume that it's likely going to be coming to the public at a much higher price than whatever the established IPO price will be.
All right. So thinking about the new investor or somebody looking at this company that's getting ready to go IPO. Previously, as a private company, you don't really have the insight to their financials or how they run the business or management philosophies or things like that. So I think when somebody files for IPO, don't they have to submit all that? So then before it goes public, people can review it to get a sense of the company. What you talk about is looking at the fundamentals. Is that fair?
Yes, and what that's called is an S1 filing. And in there, they'll have all their financials, their mission statement, their company purpose. And it's almost a selling deck of why you should invest in them, while also providing you with all of the data for you to make a really good decision on, okay, they're going to be valued at around this amount. This is how much money they're making. This is how much they're growing. All of those numbers are going to be in there. So you have all the information you kind of need to make a decision if you want to invest or not.
Okay. So using maybe SpaceX as kind of our case study here, all of this has happened. SpaceX is going public, I think it's June 12th.
Yes.
Now, is this, thinking about the new investor, is this a great opportunity to get in early, or are there other inherent risks or concerns you got to be aware of?
Going through an IPO as an early investor is actually a really good learning experience because the IPO event is the most volatile a stock is likely going to ever be in its lifetime.
Right.
Because you just truly do not know the demand that it's going to be having from there. Now, is it an opportunity for an investor? Maybe so, but you have to remember generally there's going to be a lot of selling pressure when that lockup period ends.
Right.
And the reason is because if I've been an early investor in SpaceX from a long time ago, I may still believe in the company, but I do want to profit from my investment that I've put in. So there's going to be selling pressure. There are going to be insiders that are going to be selling, which will drive the stock down. Right. So when it opens up, it may not be the best price for new investors if you believe in it long term.
Is it ever the opposite where it opens at something and then goes real high and stays high? Is there a trend, or is it just, it depends?
It depends.
Yeah.
And I would say most of the time, you're going to lose money on the IPO if you buy that first day. Most of the time, at least within a short-term period, most of the time you will be down from there. There are other examples that have not been the case. Robinhood was kind of a hilarious IPO when it came. People tripled their money out of the gate on that one. There was a lot of hype. Robinhood was one of the very first to really open up a huge portion of their shares to retail investors. It kind of turned into a meme, and the thing ran a long time. But then after the meme ended, everything started to sell off, and the stock cratered big time from there. And it took a long time for it to recover. And if you would have stayed in it, you would still be up. But that was another example. There is never going to be a more volatile event than the IPO.
Okay.
And as a new investor, my opinion is you do not invest in IPOs. But you need to be aware of them because this is going to affect your money. And something I want to talk about is even if you don't participate in the SpaceX IPO, you actually are participating in it more than you actually think.
That's compelling. What do you mean?
So when SpaceX IPOs, there's going to be a lot of banks that are going to be forced to buy it because of its size. So
really,
right now, they're projecting a valuation between $1.75 and $2 trillion.
Wow.
So this is going to be the largest IPO by a long shot that we've ever had. And they are looking to enter the NASDAQ 100 basically right upon IPO. So a lot of investors, if you're invested in QQQM or QQQ that owns the NASDAQ 100, you are now going to be owning SpaceX. And they're going to be buying at that high price of the IPO. So your money is going to be affected by this because it is going to be purchased by the banks for index funds like that.
And is it because of its size already that it qualifies to make it into the NASDAQ Top 100?
And the size is the qualifier, but they've been working kind of behind the scenes with them to kind of set that up. This is not a normal way for this one to be kind of rolling out.
Okay, so there's some unique aspects to this.
Yes. As we know with Elon, there's always some unique aspects to it, for better or for worse, and this is going to be one of those things. So that is one way it's going to affect your money. The next way it's going to affect your money is people are going to be selling their current holdings to generate cash so that they can buy SpaceX IPO. So I fully expect NVIDIA, Apple, Meta, anything that's been running recently, maybe even some of Micron, any of the high flyers in memory, people are going to maybe take some profits there so that they generate cash to then go buy the SpaceX IPO. So the way that I'm viewing the situation is, what are the other opportunities that SpaceX is going to create because people are selling those stocks off? So if I'm a new investor, that's the path that I would love people to go down is, what opportunities outside of SpaceX is the IPO creating?
Opens up an opportunity for someone else to come in and buy at a nicer price point. Is that the thought?
Yes, because what's going to be happening is the company's fundamentals are not changing. People are not selling those stocks because of fundamentals. Right. They're selling the stocks because they need money to put it somewhere else. And those are beautiful opportunities for us to maybe increase and do one-time buys in those other stocks as they pull back. So that's going to be the main thing that I'm watching for.
Is it usually within the same sector or industry that happens, or it could theoretically go across the whole market where those opportunities pop up?
I think with the size of this IPO, it's going to be affecting the total market.
Okay.
I think that there's going to be so much money flowing into it that money is going to have to come from somewhere. It's not going to just be created out of thin air.
Right.
So you're going to see a lot of selling pressure on stocks that are either in technology or related, or just in the general market as people are just looking for areas to generate cash from.
And again, it's not necessarily even because they want to, it's just because they have to because of the inclusion in the NASDAQ and things like that.
And I think there is going to be a lot of people that do want to.
Right.
Because they're going to be really bought into the hype and everything that's going on with the SpaceX IPO.
Right. Because the counterpoint of maybe why you might want to, if you had that magical could tell the future ability, is it could theoretically go even higher, right?
Yes.
Demand. So like maybe you do get in, but then it climbs even higher.
That is a very likely outcome that could happen. If there continues to be so much demand, I mean, this stock could double overnight and become one of the largest and maybe even past NVIDIA in total value. That is a very likely outcome that could come from this. And one thing to think about, SpaceX has some really good things going for it right now. Their Starlink internet is an amazing profit driver. In fact, it basically is the key profit driver for SpaceX. And they're starting to grow their user base. I believe they're right around 10 million subscribers for Starlink. Just think about how applicable that is. We just heard about American Airlines is going to be having Starlink on their planes. The speed at which you can get from them and being able to get it literally anywhere, that's a massive user base that they can go pull from. and get a bunch of money from that as their key kind of cash cow here. So that's one of the big cash drivers you're buying when you're getting SpaceX right now.
Not to mention the other parts of it, which is tied to AI and the AI build out. And obviously they're investing a lot in their AI company that's tied to it.
Yes.
But then even, as you know, the market trades on the futures and on sentiment and thoughts and hopes. And so Elon has plans for AI build out in space.
Yes.
So you think, in his vision, he's got data centers in space, which we know the AI build out currently has been going bonkers, and a lot of stocks related to AI have been doing really well. And so not only does he have the revenue coming in from Starlink, he has SpaceX revenue, what they're doing with the actual spaceships in the rockets and things. But then the AI build out as well. And obviously that is a nice lead into some of the other AI companies that are about to go public. Do you want to talk about those or cap off a little bit on SpaceX?
Yeah, I think bringing it all together, as a new investor, I would likely avoid the IPO.
Okay.
But you should know that you will be affected. A lot of your positions you may hold are likely to be affected. And there is a very likely outcome that SpaceX could pop off because they do have a lot of things going for it. And if you think about a future of database in space, if he makes that come to fruition, they're probably really undervalued right now. So as a new investor, just be ready. I prefer to watch it from the sidelines and think about what are the other opportunities to think about. And like you mentioned, we have some other ones to be talking about here soon.
Yeah, so speaking of, huge focus this last year or two on companies investing billions and billions of dollars into AI. Companies, legacy companies that are pivoting to AI, and legacy companies like software companies integrating AI. Doesn't seem like AI is going away. It's not a bubble. There's real tangible benefits. There's money spent. There are things being built. And then along with that, two of the major AI companies have communicated that they will be going public in the near future.
Yes.
You have Anthropic and OpenAI. Is your thoughts similar to SpaceX in that regard of not jumping in immediately on the IPO and watching it?
Yes, and just in a general avoiding IPO way.
Yeah.
So we would need to wait for all the S1 filings to come out so that we can see the underlying business results that those two are having. But my guidance would hold for both of those as well. But these ones are more meaningful to me than SpaceX because they are the culmination of the AI build-out. They are the final stage of why I need infrastructure because they are the ones that are using AI and offering a service with it. So they're going to be also borderline $1 trillion companies. So we just have so much money coming in, moving from a private company to public. It's going to be a lot of just funds moving around.
Yeah. What's a little bit different, though, between SpaceX and some of these AI companies is that SpaceX with Starlink and maybe even SpaceX, the rocket launches, has generated revenue. Maybe not what everyone wants, but it's been proven that there's money to be made and they're making it. Is there still a big question on how much revenue AI can actually generate?
I think so. And I don't think we have a good answer on if I spend X dollars, I get X return on my AI spend. And right now, OpenAI has been very open that they are doing massive deals with the largest companies in the world, offering investments in their company to scale with them. And I mean, they have tens of billions of dollars that they've agreed to scale with all of the biggest mega cap stocks that are out there. They're all about, we need as much infrastructure as possible so that we can fit everyone's needs. And the way you fit everyone's needs is you have enough computational power that it doesn't matter how many people are using ChatGPT, I can service everyone. So both of these companies are restricted right now by the amount of data centers that exist. So they're partnering with everyone to continue to scale things. And this is where the circular nature of the AI investment has come into play. NVIDIA wants you to buy their chips. You should invest in my company. Oh, great, we'll buy your chips if you invest in us. This is the circular nature that we're really seeing come to play.
Yeah, not to get too technical, but that resourcing or compute power you talk about is because in its most simplest form, somebody makes a request on an AI prompt or request for it to go provide an answer. Well, that request goes back to the data center, to the servers, the computers that are processing it, and it starts running the engine, starts doing the math, starts doing the calculations, the research. All of that spins up those chips, those CPUs, those processes, everything from, of course, all that heats up the computer, and then you need cooling, all of the parts that support that request, and then the answer comes back to the end user. And you have that happening millions of times across the global population of people making requests. That's what you're talking about when you're talking about compute power, because all that is happening at the same time. There's limited amount of resources, and so these data centers need more computers, more servers, more racks, more processors, and that's the demand currently to meet that global AI usage demand, right?
Yes, and I really recommend people subscribe to the channel because we've covered a lot of really good videos where we go in depth on who are the people that benefit from this data structure build out. And where you're going is where my mind goes with these IPOs. I'm less interested in OpenAI and less interested in Anthropic. I'm more interested in the companies that benefit from the build out that supports those companies. Those are the stocks that I have top of mind for me of where I want to put my money that is then benefiting from OpenAI and Anthropic having success from there.
Right, that's where that phrase or slogan, the picks and shovels, right? All of the companies that work to help build out or build the railroads needed the picks and shovels to lay down the tracks. So those companies doing that work were the ones that made a lot of money in the early days to support that effort. Similarly, finding those picks and shovel companies supporting the AI build out is one path.
Yes. And what I hope as an investor in those other areas is that Anthropic and OpenAI do have a successful IPO. I hope that they're able to come out and put together a really good selling story in their S1s that shows maybe they are making more money than we think, or gives more clarity on what the long form for what everything looks like with their AI software. That's what we need. I need vision to that to help boost everything else that's happening with the build out. But my eyes are mostly focused on who benefits from rather than caring too much about the IPOs themselves.
That's fair. In fact, I like that NVIDIA video you did recently where NVIDIA being the leading chip manufacturer, everyone needs NVIDIA. They're at the top of the food chain. But who's supporting NVIDIA is another path to invest in. So it's similar to that, right? Like finding the support structures, the companies that are helping NVIDIA succeed. What are the support companies along with NVIDIA helping AI succeed?
That's exactly it. It's really just trying to identify where are the bottlenecks. And if you invest in the bottlenecks are where the pricing power is going to be for those companies, which allows them to make more money and allows them to beat estimates, and then that drives their stock up.
Okay. A better time to keep an eye out versus not jumping in right away?
That would be my advice.
Yeah.
Is kind of revisiting it, paying attention to it, and kind of revisiting it after the lockup periods are kind of done. So 6 to 9 months from now, kind of coming back and seeing where the stock starts to settle in. Because you never know what's going to be happening from a macro environment right now. We're still waiting on, there's a peace deal. Is there a peace deal? Where does that sit? There's still some tension outside the market that could also affect prices downward. So this is just another event that's going to create more pressure on the market to see what happens from there.
But that being said, we also are focusing on investing for the long term. Yeah. So even if you did get involved and you took an opportunity to buy some shares during the IPO and the stock dips, that's now also included in our whole perspective of You ride the wave of dips and gains. You dollar cost average along the way. So maybe your first investment in SpaceX is a little bit higher than you like versus what the stock lands at. But that could be normalized over 6 months, a year, whatever happens long term. So I'm just kind of reframing as well, bringing it back to, it's one thing if you're a day trader or a swing trader.
Yes.
It's a whole nother thing if you're a long-term investor and if you believe in the company and you have conviction for what they're doing.
That's exactly it. So if I am a long-term investor and I decided to go into the IPO,
Yeah.
you just have to know you're going to have insane volatility to get yourself through. But if I'm a long-term investor, that means that I believe in this company and I want to hold it for a long time. Yeah. So you just need to kind of power through it. And if this is your first one, it's going to be a wild ride for sure.
So even with the indexes or some of the ETFs we mentioned that might be impacted, it might take a hit, it might take a gain, but in the end, even if it takes a hit or takes a gain, we're still looking 5-10 years out. So who knows what happens across the long-term phase of it.
Yeah, and if I'm a long-term investor, I'm not going to be investing the amount of money that if SpaceX does go down, it's going to wreck my portfolio. Right. Remember, this would need to be a portion that's allocated of my total portfolio rather than me going all in on the SpaceX IPO.
All right, so with the IPOs, any other things you want to call out? Any concerns, risks, fees, anything unique about it? Or is it literally just like buying, it just happens to be a new company on the index in the market to buy a share of?
Yeah, really the big story here is just the size of SpaceX. It's going to be the largest IPO like we've never seen before.
Right.
And that's really what's driving so much discussion is the size of it. We've never had a company this big hit the market. Yeah. So it's gonna do shockwaves. And I think we're all gonna be learning together to see really how everything settles out from there.
Yeah, it's almost like grab the popcorn. And, but it's funny because I can just already imagine, let's say it comes out hot, but then everyone's cautious and then it dips or starts trending down. But then that creates new demand because it's like, oh, it's falling. Let me get in while it's lower than what it opened, and it creates its self-demand.
Yes.
And then it goes up and it goes down. I think all of that can happen in a day.
Oh, it will. Yeah. And that's something that we can all plan on. That it could go out hot, it could dip. There's gonna be dip buyers. It's gonna be the story of probably the year, or at least until OpenAI and Anthropic officially come down to a date.
Yeah. Now there's always a benefit to being first, and there's sometimes a detriment to being first, right? You make the early mistakes or you get early market share, pros and cons of being first. Do you think depending on the outcome, it'll adjust market sentiment and or retail investor thoughts and strategies for the following, Anthropic and OpenAI companies, depending on what happens with SpaceX?
Yeah, I think if SpaceX falls on its face, that will definitely have a negative impact towards those upcoming IPOs because people don't want to get burned again on things. And I'm sure that OpenAI and Anthropic do want SpaceX to have a good one so that it sets people up and builds on the excitement for those.
Yeah. One of the things I heard that just in my research is there's could potentially be similarly what you talked about with other stocks moving funds over, but specifically moving Tesla stocks, people selling Tesla and then investing over to another Elon company. I don't know. I mean, that could be like any other, wherever you have your money, if you need to reallocate, maybe not.
Well, and we're hearing talk of him possibly wanting to merge both companies. So who knows? You might be selling your Tesla stock to buy SpaceX and then you have the same company eventually.
Yeah, that's interesting. All right. Well, that's great feedback. It's good insight. Be cautious about IPOs.
Yes.
And it's never, you can always get in later and dollar cost average if it goes one way or the other, depending on what side of the fence you're on. But putting you on the spot a little bit.
Okay.
Are you going to invest in SpaceX on the IPO day?
I don't plan on investing in SpaceX. Okay. I love their Starlink model. So for me, That's my favorite part because it feels more real. I have a really hard time getting my mind wrapped around, data centers in space, a moon base, all of this stuff. Like if Elon can pull it off, it's beyond me. And so I'm gonna, just watch from the sidelines and see what happens. And again, I'm gonna be looking for opportunities that this is creating for me in the companies that I really like with an AI.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing. I'd encourage our listeners as well to either comment if they're going to invest in it or not, why or why not. We'd love to know that.
Yes.
But I'd also say depending on how well you know your ETFs, especially if you've invested in some like the NASA ETF or something that's focused on the space build out and everything related, you may already own a part of SpaceX. That will show up once they go public because they've been part of that early investor wave too.
That's
similar to the QQQM.
That's exactly it.
All right, so no on SpaceX. How about OpenAI or Anthropic?
So of those two,
Yeah.
Anthropic I think is more of the hotter name right now. OpenAI was kind of the first mover advantage, but they appear to be spending many, many billions in this build out. And I would really need to see good financials before I would commit to either of those companies.
Yeah.
So for now, I would say no, but I'm more open to those than I am the SpaceX.
Yeah, and OpenAI is ChatGPT.
Yes.
And Anthropic is Claude.
That's correct.
Right? So depending on what model you're familiar with or have used, could lean somebody one way or the other.
Yes, exactly.
Alex, well, thanks for talking stocks with us. I encourage anyone, as you mentioned, listening to like and subscribe, to check out more of our content and hear from you. But thanks for talking today.
Yeah, it's fun stuff to talk about. It's going to be quite the show. So I can't wait to hear from listeners on if they're into it or not. And if I'm wrong, let me know. I'm interested.
And by the way, they could also email you at alex@alextalkstocks.com. Go to our website, sign up for the newsletter. We're about to release a weekly newsletter that brings a little bit of additional goodies and value adds for free to our listeners. So I encourage everyone to do that.
Yeah, that's going to be a great value add because we can't cover everything that I want to talk about in each video, and this newsletter is going to help add more info that I would love to cover. It's going to be included in there.
Cool. Well, thanks for doing that, and thanks for talking today. We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds great. Till then.
Ciao.